It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films on November 8th, 2002. With three films to look at today, let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Eminem making his feature film debut in Curtis Hanson's 8 Mile.
Baby? The franchise? Yeah. I'm taking a bus to work on November 8th. All the ex-cons and welfare moms look at that plan, man. All right, come on, man. How you feeling? There's a chance. Something's gonna happen. It needs to happen now. Turn it around.
What are you doing with your life? It's so great. I have a feeling about you. You're going to be great.
They're calling your name. Rated R. At theaters Friday.
8 Mile tells the story of Eminem's life through autobiographical elements where you follow a white rapper named Jimmy Smith Jr., a.k.a. B. Rabbit, played by Eminem, and his attempt to launch a career in hip-hop, a music genre dominated by African Americans. I don't know why I needed to tell you that. It's on the Wikipedia page here, and I think people can figure out what hip-hop is, but the title is derived from 8 Mile Road, the highway between the predominantly black city of Detroit and the largely white suburban communities to the north, where Eminem originally lived in. And we've kind of talked about some of the more recent of the times, as musicians making the jump to the big screen, and most of them have not worked out well. Of course, talking about Mariah Carey, Britney Spears, Beyonce had that role in Austin Powers and Goldmember, where she actually did probably the best overall until we got to here. And I gotta say, Eminem. Think about where Eminem was around this time when this movie was coming out. Now, he was still a popular draw, but everyone thought that he took himself a little bit too seriously, especially when he got into a fight with Triumph the Insult Comic Dog during the Video Music Awards. Like everyone didn't know what to think of him. But then he makes a movie like this, and you realize this dude's got a lot of chops to him. Like, he's not only a pretty good rapper, but he's also a pretty damn good actor, because he really is the centerpiece of what makes this movie so great. It's his performance that I think really does carry the load here. And he really is a fantastic actor in this movie. Like, he really does play this role very well. And the movie is just pretty damn good. A good cast of supporting people behind him. Kim Basinger, Brittany Murphy, Mekhi Phifer, all delivering very good performances. You have a great director in Curtis Hanson, who did LA Confidential. I mean, the pieces were definitely there to make this movie as great as it is, and the song "Lose Yourself" is just such a good song. Like, I still couldn't believe when this movie was coming out and it's got nominated for Best Original Song. I think a lot of people were shocked when it actually won for Best Original Song, and now Eminem is an Oscar winner too. And I like the fact that it wasn't just he wasn't there the night that they had the Oscars, because he didn't think he was going to win. I think he was back home in Detroit, if I remember that was the story back then, but. It's a great song. I mean, there was a lot of really good underrated songs that came out in that time is for the Best Original Song category, but that one was really surprising when that actually won, and it's a damn good song, and it definitely deserved to win. It's definitely something very different from what the Best Original Song Oscar usually was going for at that time, but like I said, the movie really is good, and it still holds up after all these years later, and it shows that Eminem does have some acting chops to him. He would show it in other comedies, too, like funny comedies. This isn't really a comedy, but comedies like Funny People, I thought he was really good in. He has a great cameo at the beginning of The Interview. I mean, the guy is a really good, entertaining personality. Like, he's a good musician, he's a good comedic actor, and he's just a good actor in general, too. I mean, he's got what it takes to become a really good, to be a really solid entertainer overall, and I think this movie definitely shows what his abilities are capable of here. And I do like that he never really took that to another level where he started showing up in numerous movies. Like, he would only do it in sporadic bits and pieces. Like, he kind of went the same way with Michael Jordan in Space Jam. Like, after Space Jam, it's just like, that's all I really need to do. If I find something good to come back for, I'll definitely do that. And like I said, every once in a while he comes back, but I'm glad that he took it down to just one movie to be the leading star in, because I feel like if he had done more movies, probably that would have kind of killed the ebb and flow, or who knows, maybe he could be the next great actor. I mean, nobody really knows what happens, but with 8 Mile, he definitely shows he's got what it takes to be a good actor, and honestly, I wouldn't mind him trying to do something similar to this, another big leading role in a movie, but if this is the only one we'll get, I think it's a pretty good one to go on. I mean, it's a good film, very entertaining, very intense, well acted all around, great music, great cinematography, great writing, great direction, good cast. what more can you ask for? It's definitely one of the best movies of 2002, without a doubt. So that is 8 Mile. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Brian De Palma's Femme Fatale.
This isn't a game tonight. People can die. From a master thief to an ambassador's wife. I don't think you realize who you're dealing with. One picture can expose both stories. From Brian De Palma, the master of the erotic thriller. 2 lives, 1 woman. A suspense sensation. It ruined everything. Femme Fatale. Rated R. Starts Wednesday, November 6th.
Brian De Palma, of course, is somewhat considered the master of the erotic thriller. Of course, he did Dress to Kill back in the day, Body Double, and he would do stuff like The Black Dahlia and Passion most recently. But in this movie, you have Rebecca Romijn as a thief who steals the expensive diamond jewel called the Eye of the Serpent in an audacious heist during an exhibition at Cannes 2001. She double-crosses her partners and is mistakenly taken as Lily, a woman who lost her husband and son in an accident and is missing since then by an ordinary family. One day, while having a bath in Lily's bathtub, Lily comes back home and commits suicide. Lori assumes her identity, goes to America where she marries a rich man who becomes the ambassador of the U.S. in France, and when Lori returns to France, her past haunts her. There is definitely a lot going on in this movie, and this isn't really a great film overall, but maybe I was kind of over-exaggerating last time when I said this was one of those erotic thrillers that doesn't work. I gotta say, like, of all the ones we've looked at on this show, Basic Instinct still is the topper, but this one's not that bad. It's actually kind of a close second to maybe being somewhat actually enjoyable. I mean, it's a film that got a lot of bad raps when it came out in theaters originally, but it's just gone on to have this kind of a cult following over the years, and I can definitely see why. I think there is a lot more to it, and you can tell Brian De Palma was definitely trying to put his all into this particular one, and actually put more effort into it instead of just being a strictly TNA type of film where you get to see a lot of nudity. Because there's a lot of nudity in this film, but the movie itself is not bad. It's actually kind of a film that I would say is okay. It's not a great film overall. It kind of has kind of a less than spectacular plot twist ending at the end where it just feels like it kind of rushes out of nowhere, quite honestly. But other than that, though, I thought the performances overall were pretty good. I thought Rebecca Romijn did a pretty good job, so did Antonio Banderas. But I think the biggest flaw of the film is the overall storyline. I think the story in general is not that great overall, and it just feels like it's not the worst thing ever, but it definitely feels like it's that one little thing where it could have easily been just another one of these bad, cheap erotic thrillers that's trying to cash on the Basic Instinct train, even after all these years, and it really doesn't go that route. It's a film that is actually, I think, a little bit better than I gave it a lot of credit for. I think most people would give it a lot of credit for. Again, not saying it's a great movie per se, but in terms of erotic thrillers, it's probably one of the better ones. I wouldn't say this is one that you have to see. You have to go out and must see. If you're looking for the best erotic thrillers or even the best Brian De Palma films, it definitely does feel like a film that is at least trying more than some of the other movies that we've taken a look at on this particular show since Basic Instinct has come out. But again, for what this movie is, I think it's a little bit better than I gave it credit for last time around. I think it is a more approachable film than I gave it credit for. Am I going to say it's a movie you need to see? Not really, but if you're looking for something a little bit different with Rebecca Romijn involved, seeing one of Brian De Palma's later works, definitely give it a shot. I think you might actually find some value of it. Maybe for a one-time watch it's worth it, but not much to say that you'll be watching it multiple times. I mean, honestly, if you really are just going to see this for the nudity, you'd be just better off going online and finding it. I mean, you could find it pretty easily if you know where you're going, So that is Femme Fatale. Let's go ahead and move on to our last movie here. Julianne Moore, Dennis Quaid, and Dennis Haysbert in, I almost forgot the title. Far From Heaven.
Confide in best.
So often we fail in that kind of love. The love that tells us to abandon our lives and plans. All for one brief touch of Venus.
So in this movie you have Julianne Moore, who's Kathy, the perfect 50s housewife, living the perfect 50s life, healthy kids, successful husband, social prominence. Then one night she stumbles in on her husband Frank kissing another man, and her tiny world starts spinning out of control. In her confusion and grief, she finds consolation in the friendship of their African-American gardener, Raymond, played by Dennis Haysbert, who's a socially taboo relationship that leads to the further disintegration of life as she knows it. Despite Kathy and Frank's struggles to keep their marriage afloat, the reality of his homosexuality and her feelings for Raymond open a painful, if more honest, chapter in their lives. And even though this came out in 2002, something about this movie feels like it's still kind of ahead of its time. Honestly, it's a movie that tackles a lot of issues here, and all in the span of like in the 1950s, when you had PSAs out there. You see these public domain things they used to show in schools all the time about how homosexuality was bad, and like there's literally a public domain. There's literally a public domain film out there called Boys Beware, where they literally talk about how homosexuality is evil and all that type of stuff. And that was back in the 1950s, but nowadays we've kind of figured out that homosexuality is not as bad as people make it out to be. And but this film in general, I think, is very unique for the ways that it handles a lot of these situations here. They got a lot of great talent to make this movie possible and make it work as well as it does. I mean, Julianne Moore. What more do you guys say about Julianne Moore? She's fantastic in usually anything she's in. Dennis Quaid's usually a very good actor. Dennis Haysbert's coming off at 24, is around this time. You also have Patricia Clarkson in here. This is directed by Todd Haynes, who later go on to direct Little Children, which was another great movie, which featured a great performance by Jackie Earle Haley, which got him an Academy Award nomination. But this is a film that, like I said, feels like something that's a little bit ahead of its time. It feels more relevant even nowadays, even though this is a period piece movie set in the 1950s, and it does a pretty good job of examining all the different themes and also a lot of the things that they talk about in here. And it's just like, it's a very unique kind of film that gets kind of underrated. It's not a film that usually gets a whole lot of attention, even though it got several Oscar nominations, including Julianne Moore getting a Best Actress nomination. It's an underrated little film. I think it's one you should definitely check out if you get a chance to see it. I think you'll definitely, if you go into it knowing what the plot is, and knowing what some of the ideas are, and seeing that it is kind of something that still remains relevant even to this day, it's a film that still very much holds up over time. And it's a movie that I feel like deserves a lot more attention than it usually gets. It's a film that kind of came out of nowhere for most people, myself included, because I didn't really pay much attention to it when it came out. But now I see it, and it's just like, this was actually a lot better than I think they made it. That I think a lot of people would have made this out to be. And I think it's a film that definitely deserves to be seen. A criminally underrated film, Far From Heaven. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. So with that said, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we'll take a look at 2 more movies, including the sequel to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the second book in the series, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the last one directed by Chris Columbus, and the last one before it eventually took the more darker turn that the rest of the books go through. And we'll take a look at the second film of the series. We'll also take a look at a Steven Seagal film, his last major theatrical release, and that is Half Past Dead. And I think you can pretty much tell which movie's going to be better than the other one, but we will let you decide that when we meet up here next time. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page, check out the previous episode. Also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.